and welcome back to my channel. Now I know it's been a few weeks. I do apologize again. As an update, sadly, I'm moving. So this green wall, say goodbye. This will be the last few times that you see it. There will be another wallpaper because I do love a wallpaper, but this particular one has been so near and dear to me, but she's gone or going. But yeah, I'll make a video if y'all want to see it about me packing all these books, because let me tell you something. I am stressed. I am overwhelmed. There are so many books. Even from the last time I made that video of me counting, the collection has grown. So I'm a little stressed, and you already know, I think I'm gonna have to move my Legos one by one. Every time I think about it, I start stressing out. So that's where I've been. Another fun update is I announced on Instagram that I'm doing an event here in Houston on July 20th. It's an audiobooks and craft event called Listen and Create. I'm super excited for that. So I've been trying to plan around that as well, but I'll share the flyer. And if you're interested in coming, I really hope you can. If you live in Houston, the tickets will be in the description. That's where I've been logistically, but yeah, I'm still here, but things are changing. Things are changing. I'm excited for the new reading room. I'm trying to design it in my head so far, but yeah, I'm excited to show y'all what that will look like. For today's video, I am going to be talking about my top books for the year so far. It was kind of hard to narrow these down, but then also not really. I was looking for stories that really stuck with me way after I read them, things that are memorable, that I feel very sharp in remembering how I felt about them, or the story really resonated with me. So that was my criteria for picking those. And maybe it's because my reading has slowed down this year, intentionally and unintentionally, but I feel like I haven't read a lot of books this year that have truly stuck. Right now I'm at 50 books for the year. I did say I wanted to read slower, so for me, that is slower. You know, we'll see how the rest of the year goes. But yeah, I'm super excited to share the ones that have truly stuck with me through this year. And yeah, let's get started. I also forgot to mention, this is in no particular order. I'm just I have them all laid out next to me, and I'm just gonna be picking books. So first one up is Love You to Death by Christine Dodson. Now, I don't know if I talked about this or not, maybe not, but this book is a thriller. And as someone that doesn't read thrillers, this book made me think do I like thrillers now? I was truly confused. Let me tell you what it's about. We've got two best friends. They got into some trouble when they were teens, so it's really hard for them to find jobs. They both have felonies, but they work as cleaning staff for a hotel. Now, that doesn't really pay all of their bills, so they basically came up with the idea what if we just robbed gift boxes from weddings and use that to supplement our income? So they've been doing that for a while. They'll find weddings online, show up as guests, take the gift box, leave. They've been able to make thousands of dollars to help with their rent, their furniture in their apartment, so on and so forth, bills, all the things. So of course, one of them wants to get out. She wants to pursue a manager position at her job. She's trying to do the right thing. But then one day she gets into it with a stepsister from hell, basically, and she ends up accruing a charge of I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot, maybe 7,000 or something like that. So she hits her friend let's do one last job. Of course, this one last job goes terribly south. Many things happen quickly, and now the two friends are on the run. This book was a journey. I was stressed, I was overwhelmed, I was anxious, I was up, I was down. I read it in one day. Highly, highly recommend this one. And I was shocked that a thriller has made it in my top list for the year, but here I am. It comes out on July 22nd. I couldn't recommend it more. Quick, short, entertaining read. I think I would classify this as more of a psychological thriller. This one made my list. Next up, top romance of the year so far that I read, PlusSize Flare by Danielle Allen. This is the second book in the Curvy Girl series. So we've got Curvy Girl Summer and then PlusSize Flare. This book is so fun. It follows Nina, one of the three friends, and she's an influencer, fashion influencer online. She has a roster. Each man serves a purpose. She's got the funny one, she's got the fun one, she's got the romantic one, and she's kind of having fun. She's going on dates with them when she's kind of feeling what she's in the mood for, but of course one of them stands out and we see their relationship kind of blossom. It's funny, it's relevant, the romance is romancing, very steamy. Curvy Girl Summer had maybe 2 or 3 scenes where it was like, okay, all right, this book has way more than that. And I didn't mind it personally. But something I have to say is that Danielle Allen has a way of talking about fat phobia and what it's like to be in a fat body in a way that I think is so refreshing and beautiful, because it's not her trying to pretend and there's no like false body positivity. It's none of that. It's like very real. And her main characters are very true and sure of themselves. And even though people are saying comments about them or their bodies, they're quick to shut it down, and it doesn't change how they view themselves. And I just think that that's a really, really beautiful to witness and to read as a reader, especially living in the world that we live in now. And she just does a perfect job at that. I love the way that she writes her fat main characters. It's so special. So yeah, this is the second book. The third book comes out next April. I think it's called Big Girl Blitz. I could be wrong. This book, if you're looking for like a fun read that's gonna like keep your attention, that's spicy, highly recommend. All right, next up is, as y'all know, one of my favorites as well. This is The Wilderness by Angela Flournoy. Still unsure how to say her last name. But yeah, I talked about this book before, but it's still one that I think about often, just as like a reminder. It's a book that follows 5 Black women and their friendship over a 20-year span. So it goes like a little bit further back than where we are right now in the present day. We talk about present day and then it goes a little bit into the future as well. What I loved about this book was the exploration of how friendships evolve as we are all growing as people individually, and how life changes us, and what it means to get to know a person that you've been friends with in a new phase of their life, and all of the ways that they've changed or grown, or maybe not changed or not grown. Really making sure that you're still aligned values and belief, and you're redefining what support and showing up for each other looks like. I think this book really does a great job at that. The piece where it talks about like our close future is feeling a bit spooky given everything that's happening right now. So I will say that, like, that was not fun to read, but added so much to the story as well. I don't know, I really love this book. I know it doesn't come out until September, I'm so sorry, but I highly recommend that you add it to your list, because there's so much to talk about. And I think it's important that we start talking about friendships right now, because I think the landscape of friendships has shifted drastically. And I think it's mostly in part due to like COVID, and then going from COVID to like the pandemic, and then all of the political things that are happening, and then burnout, and then all of the layers of grief that people are experiencing. I think it's completely redefined how we show up in friendships and what feels important to us versus what doesn't. And it's redefined so many different things. I think this book is a great, just like exploration, and like brings up great questions to think about when you're thinking about maybe how you're showing up in friendship, and what friendship means to you, and what you hope it means to you as you continue to grow throughout life, right? So the book ends with everyone being in their 40s, right? So they were friends in their 20s and now in their 40s. Like, that's a lot to go through in a friendship group. And I think a lot of people have lived experiences like that and will feel validated and seen by reading this book. So this one's up there as well. All right, next up is Necessary Fiction by Elagosa. I could be saying that wrong. Osunde. Here's the cover. I first saw this cover in, I want to say January or February, and I was like, ooh, based off the cover, like, yeah, sign me up. Wow, this book, let me give you a quick description. It's described as an audacious and eye-opening exploration of cross-generational queer life in Nigeria. It asks the question, what makes a family? How is it defined and by whom? And is freedom for everyone? In Necessary Fiction, Elagosa Osunde poses these provocative questions and many more as they explore the paths and dreams, hopes and fears of more than 24 characters who are staking out lives for themselves in contemporary Nigeria. I knew that I was gonna love this book. However, I didn't know it was going to be a monumental book of my life. This is a book that I think, to not be dramatic, can be life-changing for various reasons. There's so much to love about it. It's really one of my now all-time favorite books. I can say that without a doubt. Mind you, I finished this book yesterday. I can say that, no questions asked. Why it's so, I think, pivotal is, as someone that's Nigerian, but like I live in America, there's certain things that I miss that I don't have in regards to like experience of like being in Nigeria that, you know, I get to maybe experience in other ways through like, you know, social media or through movies and music, right? And that was all included in this book, like different mannerisms and different like sayings and different slang was incorporated in the book that a lot of people might not understand unless you are Nigerian or unless you're like, you know, Yoruba or Igbo, to be honest. But that felt like very like, oh my gosh, like I know exactly what she's saying. I've heard this phrase used before. I know what it means. The author goes by they, them. They don't also explain what these euphemisms and slang phrases are often. And I appreciate that because like, they don't need to, right? Like if you get it, you get it, and you don't, it doesn't throw you out of the story enough for it to be super relevant. But if you do get it, it adds just like a certain familiarity for the reader that I really, really, really enjoyed. I think this book is a great exploration of the many layers of grief. It highlights the pain that usually happens before someone makes the decision to try to found family. It's a great exploration of queer identity in a very broad spectrum. Like it doesn't just focus on certain identities within the queer community or queer umbrella. It's very broad. The found family in here is so beautiful. There's a group of friends, they do this thing called Truth Circle, and they just kind of go around sharing how they're feeling about maybe pain that they're carrying, experiences that are coming up for them, their fears about the future, their worries about themselves and those in their lives. I can't stress enough, this book is beautiful. Yesterday, I have to tell this story because it truly shocked me. I was getting a pedicure and I brought my book, as one does. I get to a particular page, I won't be sharing the page. Please respect my privacy at this time. I read that page and I start sobbing. I become inconsolable, which is, I already painted the scene for you. It's a strange scene to be crying at the nail salon. Again, I've said this many times before. The reason why I love being a reader is that sometimes you can be experiencing something that is so heavy and so layered, but you don't have the language to describe the feelings that are coming up for you or like the layers that are attached to it. And you just kind of feel like it's just this internal battle that you're struggling with, right? So for me, and why that scene and that page was so powerful to me is because I've been trying to put into words a situation and experience that has been happening throughout my whole life. And I've been able to like chip at it a bit, but not in a way that feels like, yes, this is exactly how I feel. And that was this page in this book. And it, one, took me by surprise, but two, gave me language that I have been searching for. And I think that that is such a beautiful experience as a reader. And I can only imagine what it feels like as a writer to be able to provide that to readers who are struggling. Like, there is something to take away for everyone from this book. I stand behind that. So without a doubt, it's in my all-time favorites list, and it's also in my list for 2025 so far. It comes out July 22nd as well. I cannot recommend this book to you enough. It is a heavy read, but I think it's a necessary one. Not to play on the title, but trust me, get it. Next is Sadina by Oathbound. I've already talked about how much I love this book, but it's so good. I have to be honest, there hasn't been a lot of YA books that I've read this year that have really like moved me or stuck to me in a way that like, okay, I'm like, all right, yes, this makes sense. But this one, it just stuck. The writing is so beautiful. It is a quick read. I think what stood out to me was this idea of rejection and how, you know, sometimes the deepest rejections that we carry come from the people who are not supposed to reject us, our family. That's who society tells us is not supposed to reject us, right? And just like the power that Sadina just had at such a young age and trying to build that responsibility of having it look like. Also, I think I really love the spirituality, the African spirituality conversation in the book. I loved it. I loved it a lot. It really stuck with me. Again, you guys know I'm a big Oathbound fan, so it wasn't a surprise that I loved the book so much, but I also got to buddy read it with my friend Margot online, and that was a really special experience too. But yeah, it's one of the few YA books this year that I'm like, okay, this stuck out to me, and I definitely recommend it, and it definitely made my list for the year. Akweke also has another book coming out, I think in November, that is their first romantasy. So I'm really looking forward to that. How authors have multiple books come out in 1 year is beyond me, but I'm here for it. So yeah, So Medina definitely makes my list as well. Next up is Immaculate Conception by Ling Huang. No surprise there, again, big fan of natural beauty. So went into this book knowing that I would love it. And then this was another one where I saw the cover and was like, oh yeah, I'm locked in. What I loved about this book and why it stuck, I love stories about jealousy because I think that jealousy is such a taboo topic, and I really hate that it is, because it's a natural feeling, but because we villainized it, people don't discuss when they're experiencing jealousy, and then it ends up turning into this very big and dangerous thing oftentimes. This story of jealousy was, one, very specific, but also so intriguing because, like, if you don't look too deep, you would mistake the jealousy for love. And I find that to be very interesting, but it's one of those things where you're witnessing two people who in many ways maybe do love each other, but they're always going to have a space of competition between each other because they're vying for each other's love in a way that is destructive, for lack of better words. I like the way that Ling approached trauma in regards to art. I think society has kind of told us that the best artists are the ones that are like the most broken or have the like longest histories of trauma, or they're like deeply depressed or deeply wounded people. And I find that to be harmful because we're not also having conversations about like their care and their mental health and what it's like to pour all of your pain into your art for people to then kind of take and kind of talk about it or make it their own in a way that might not be what you intended. Like, there's so much around that. So I found that to be interesting. I also think what stuck with me is Ling's observation around AI in art, but also AI and our ideas of creation in regards to just like children and like the future. So fascinating. I've recommended this book countless times. I will continue to do so. There's just a lot to talk about that has continued to stick with me. And like often I think about other things I'm curious about. Like the motherhood aspect in this book was so interesting, as well as like a layer that you don't really anticipate but sticks with you. So yeah, obviously on my list. Obviously. I know how I feel about this one. The Girls Who Grew Big, Layla Motley. I was sent the final copy, which I was really grateful for because I was gonna buy it anyways. The reason why this book stuck out to me is because I really enjoyed the conversations around teen pregnancy and how it's demonized, and how, again, because it is the isolation that comes with it and what it means to find a community to help you navigate through this very big life change that people have demonized for you because you are a teen, and trusting that the love that these mothers have for their children isn't any less because they're teenagers. Like, that's one aspect of it for sure. And then also what stuck out to me is the kind of redefinition and definition of sisterhood and what it means to share in a lived experience but also decide to still support each other despite your differences. I love these girls so much. I think about them often. But again, what sticks out to me is like motherhood and pregnancy, and how there's really no resources in any stage of pregnancy and motherhood for folks who decide to have children. Yeah, or folks who don't, right? And I feel like, in the world we live in right now, those options are dwindling by the second. So I think that's what stuck out to me the most in this book. I ended up loving every single one of them by the end of the book, and I think that that's really special. Y'all know, this is up there. Now, next is Oh Sinners by Nicole Cuffey. I read this book in January? I'm still thinking about it. This book was about a cult led by a Black man, and it was two different stories happening where we had the Vietnam War from the perspective of the Black soldiers, and then also a reporter who was trying to gain information about this cult and this cult leader. What stuck out to me in this book, one, was the amount of craft that went into writing this book, again, because there is a documentary of the cult that's playing kind of like in between these two stories, the Vietnam War and the journalism trying to do the investigation. To have all of these things happen at once could have been a disaster, if I'm being honest, but it wasn't. it really helped move the story along, and I really, really appreciated that. What also stuck out with me is this like definition of masculinity and how the characters were defining it for themselves or trying to define it for themselves. I think that's what stuck out to me the most. And it was overall just an interesting story in general, but I am someone that does enjoy researching about cults. I don't love cults, I just enjoy researching about them, mostly thinking about the psychological impact of it and, you know, truly understanding what leads people to joining cults. I think it should allow people to be able to be more compassionate towards people who are in them. Anyways, my one gripe with this book is that I did want to know more about the cult, but I think again, that was just me and my personal preference, but one of the best books I've read this year for sure. Another YA book that stuck like glue, Audrey and Basher Just Friends by Tia Williams. I loved this book. I still think about it often. I think that Tia Williams has been really growing as an author, and it's been really great to see that evolution throughout her books. I think that the mental health rep in this book in regards to anxiety and panic attacks was spot on and necessary, especially for the demographic. I do think that teenagers being able to have language to describe what they're experiencing, but also to maybe be alert to some of the symptoms that they might have been carrying that they didn't know was something to be maybe concerned about, or just that there could be answers for it, is really, really beautiful. I thought the love story was really believable in a way that like just made sense to the story. It didn't distract or take away from it. It was just like very nice to see the evolution as we continue to read the book. I would love a third in this kind of series because, you know, you have 7 Days in June, then this is Audrey and Basher Just Friends. I don't know what would be in the third book. I think I just like the universe that Tia Williams is building and I want to live there more. But yeah, I found this book to be fun, age appropriate, and also a great conversation starter for maybe teens and their parents or parents and their teens. And another thing I liked is that there were coping skills that were discussed when it comes to panic attacks, which we don't see often in literature. And I thought that was super helpful as well too, so that if anyone has been experiencing panic attacks, they can maybe try some of them. I thought that was really special. So this definitely made my list as well. Now y'all know I have to talk about my precious sweet angel baby, Oathbound by Tracy Deonn. If you didn't know, this is the 3rd book in the Legendborn cycle. The 4th one, we don't have a date yet for, I'm hoping next year. But yes, this was not only one of my favorite books of the year, it's also my favorite book in the series. I just really enjoy the way that Tracy builds worlds. I enjoyed the conversations around generational trauma, racism, and grief, especially with a teenage girl who is navigating power that is so much bigger than she could imagine. I think this is another series where everyone can take something from it. I think a lot of people will like it. I am not a fantasy girl. This is the only fantasy series that I've read that I loved and will continue to keep up with. Very much so in the fandom, very much so Team Bree. So it had to make my list, obviously, because this book is so near and dear to me. The whole series is near and dear to me. If you haven't started, I highly recommend it. I know it's big. It starts off big and they just get bigger as the books continue, but the audio is really good and you can kind of listen to all of them in a way that like maybe moves it a little bit faster, doesn't feel so intimidating, but do with that what you will. It's my girl right here. Next is The Edge of Water. Y'all know, if you've been here, you know how I feel about this book. I still think about this book. I do. I love stories that are about mother-daughter relationships, and I've read quite a few this year, but this one still remains like the one that I think about often because of the conversations around destiny and fate and what it means to, at times for a parent or a mother in this case, to try to place her own fears and anxieties on her child and then have the child say no and do what they want, and then like it ending up being a situation that doesn't go well. You know, what does that look like in regards to grief? What does that look like in regards to guilt? What is it like to choose a different path other than the one that has been chosen for you? These are the questions that I think a lot of people try to kind of battle on a day-to-day basis. I think this book does a really great job at asking that question and then giving space and language to those who might be struggling to describe what that means for them. So this is my precious book. I love this book so much. So of course I had to make the list. Honorable mentions, and the only reason I don't have a copy of them is because I've loaned them out, which like I need to stop doing. It's very weird of me. But I will say Zeal by Morgan Jerkins. I mean, talk about a fantastic book. It takes place, I want to say, in the 1800s. I could be wrong. And then also present day, or not present day, but 2019 into 2020. What stuck out to me about that book was, as someone that does not enjoy historical fiction that much, I really enjoyed the historical parts of the book. I felt like the storyline was not only engaging, but super intriguing in a way that, like, one, I was able to kind of like learn about certain dates that were talked about, but also follow the story in a way that like kept me engaged, because, you know, naturally we're seeing two different timelines. You know they're going to connect at some point and intersect, but you don't know how, and that just kind of kept me in the story. I will say with that one, it was really difficult to read about the beginning of COVID from a doctor that lived in New York. That was really tough personally, because again, I just don't think I'm ready to really face that time yet. There's a lot that I think we all have kind of pushed to the side and forgotten through time, and like to see that and like read it in a book, I just wasn't ready yet. But I do think that it kind of added different layers to the story that were necessary. Morgan Jerkins, her writing is so beautiful, in the sense of like, you can tell she's someone that does a lot of research, but she's not just throwing research at you. She's able to weave the research into her fiction in a way that just like makes sense and keeps you locked in. So yeah, I definitely want to say Zeal is up there for me in the top books I've read this year so far, for sure. Next, again, is a book that I borrowed out. Like, what? This Could Be Forever by Ebony Liddell is another YA book that I absolutely enjoyed. What sticks out to me about that the most is the conversations around what it means to be first gen, to know the sacrifices that your family has sacrificed in order for you to be able to kind of build who you are as a person and discover your identity in this country, and then also to push against their own desires for yourself, and to push against their own anxieties and fears that they've kind of like put on you based off of their own lived experiences. I loved the conversations that were had in the book in regards to like conversations between family, parents, and kids. I thought it was really important. I loved Ebony's portrayal of what it means to be a dark-skinned Black girl and not wear society's judgments and just like isms on you, and watching it not turn into insecurities for the main character was something that was really beautiful and necessary to see. Like, our main character was very much so sure of herself, knew exactly who she was and where she came from, and her family had instilled that confidence in her, and she's able to build it and continue to grow it for herself as an individual. Again, things that we don't see often that I just found to be so beautiful and so necessary. And, you know, my hope is that young dark-skinned Black girls can see themselves in the main character and know that they are who they are despite what society tells them or tries to tell them or tries to make them feel about themselves. And yeah, books like that are not only so important, but they're also so validating for so many different people. And that to me is why it's on my list and why it sticks. So those are just a few of the books that I have read this year that I feel like have been really transformative for me, and have maybe given me language about certain things, or made me question certain things, or helped me to be in a state of reflection, which feels really difficult, obviously, because of everything happening in the world on a day-to-day basis. And, you know, they've reminded me of why I love being a reader, why I'll always be a reader. I'm so grateful for authors and their willingness to put themselves in their stories and to share those stories with the world. I mean, it's such a beautiful experience to be a reader for many different reasons. But yeah, there are some more, but like, of course I'm gonna do my end of the year wrap up video, and then I'll include those at that time as well. But if you've read any of these books, I'd love to talk about it. If you've also read any of these books because I recommended them to you, I would love to hear that as well too. But yeah, if you have any books that you've read so far that you feel like is definitely making it to your end of the year list faves, I'd love to hear more about those as well. Like I said earlier, I'll keep you guys posted on the move. You'll see me try to fit all of these books into crates to try to move them. Please wish me luck. But yeah, and then as a reminder again, I am doing that event in Houston, so check the description for more info on that. It's always great to talk with y'all in this way. I do love being here, even though I did take another accidental break, my bad. I do love being here. I do appreciate y'all for being here and making it this far, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.